Hey everybody, Eric Dorward here with Spartan Rocketry Club. We are going to be building our very first rocket here. And the model that I've chosen for us is the Estes Shattered. This is the packaging that came with it. First thing we got to do is, we don't need this anymore. Here are instructions. First thing we want to do is make sure that we check the instructions to make sure we have all the pieces. Now, I've already done that. It's also good to keep this front page handy so we have a reference guide when they ask us to do a specific thing with a specific piece. This is going to be off frame, but you should refer to yours as you build along with me if you're using this. So, first thing we need to do then is we need one of the two body tubes. There are two of them. We only need one for the time being. We need to get our pencil and our ruler, and we are going to mark 1.5 inches down the body tube. Now it's going to be kind of hard to see our mark here, and we're going to do our best to make it accurate. 1.5 inches is right here. So there we have it. Boy, that's hard to see because it is in a spotted field, because that's what kind of kit we've got here. I'm going to grab a red pen, and I'm going to go over that. So let's face it, that's going to be hard to see. That's right there. All right, don't need the ruler for a bit. What we do need to do is we need to make a straight line with this. That's going to be hard to do, just freehanding it. So what we're going to do is we're going to take this over to the door jamb, and we're going to use the door jamb to help us draw. We are going to use pencil on this. It's going to be hard to see, but we can live with that. It'll just be how things are. So I'm going to pause here. I'll be right back after I've done that. All right, we're back. I've got the line drawn on. It's very hard to see, again, because of the pattern, but I know it's there. It's right here, very faint, but such is life. All right, now what we need to do is we need to use this piece here. This is our launch lug. It's got two holes in it. The lug is going to hold the rod on when we finally launch the rocket. We want, see there are bumps on the back of this. We want the one bump to go right through the dot we drew, and then the other one is going to be somewhere up on the line. We drew the line to make sure that this is straight. So what we're going to do is we're going to push into the rocket tube. Not super gently. I want to make sure it's all lined up. But we want to have kind of a mark, because we're going to actually cut in a little bit here. So we're going to kind of deform the tube in a couple spots. That ought to do. Now, we've got our knife. We're, of course, being very careful with our knives. The instructions say for us to make a little star cut, a plus sign, essentially. We're going to cut in at the mark that we made in both directions. This is how the little bump is going to go through. And just to make sure that we're looking in the right place, we are going to, there's that impression that I made right there. We're going to do another little plus cut right here. Now, once we've done that, we should be able to get this glued in a little bit more stably, or sturdily, I guess is the word I'm looking for. It should hold it better. And we do want to make sure that this is straight. The star cut, the plus sign cut gives us a little bit of leeway, but we want it to be straight with the line we drew. The line I see right here, probably you can't see it at all, but it goes right through the hole. So that looks promising. Since we're done with the knife, we will cap it. Now, we are ready to glue. The instructions say we want to put a line of glue from one hole to the next. And then we are going to put this right on top, and it's going to stick. This stuff, it's got a lot of warning labels on it, right? So we're not going to mess around with this stuff. I've got a little cloth here just in case. So I'm going to run a bead of this. And you'll notice I've already kind of slopped it around. So that's probably good enough. I am going to take my rag here. There's a little bit of excess there, and I'm just also going to kind of spread it out along my line. Okay. Now this goes back in where we had it, and I'm going to mop up any other slop that came off the side, and I want to make sure it is in that hole. Now this glue is plastic cement. It works by basically melting the plastic a little bit. And so it kind of welds the plastic into place. So if you get it on the plastic, it's going to melt it. It's not like crazy glue. It does not glue everything together. So this stuff doesn't work super well gluing plastic to wood, or paper in this case. So we're going to need to hold that and make sure it sets. Notice it's kind of come off here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to stick a pencil in here so I can push. So I want to make sure that that little bump goes in the whole way. So otherwise we cut that hole for no reason. So that's our first bit of work here. The instructions then say that we're going to put a sticker over top to kind of hold this in place. Here's my sticker. So we're not relying completely on the glue. I'm going to peel off my backing here. Do your best to make sure that you haven't messed anything up, you haven't bumped the lines or anything. It's still flush with my line. Oops, so I can shift it a little bit. Okay, I'm going to put this right in the middle as best I can, and then smooth out the sides. I want this to be as flush as possible. This is going to do two things. One, it might be the main thing holding things together, but it's also going to keep everything together while the glue sets. So that's taken care of, more or less. Let's try to get that bump in there a little bit better. All right, so that's taken care of. The next thing we need to do then is we are going to build this part together. This is where the engine goes, and it's where the fins are going to attach. Ultimately, it's going to look like this. So you're going to line up, make sure you got the screw end at the bottom, and there are little bumps here, maybe you can see better. They're going to fit together for a nice snug fit. We need to glue this together first. So we're going to grab our glue again, and we are going to put a thin line along the edges in the middle here. We don't need much. In fact, we don't want much. And I'm going to try to avoid the part at the bottom where the screws are, because the screw is our engine retainer. It's what holds the motor in place during flight and during the ejection. So I've got some glue on. I'm going to carefully line things up. I'm going to squeeze it together. I'm going to hold it together. I'm going to dab any glue spots that have gotten out when I squeeze together. So we don't want that. We don't want it to mess up any of our seams. Try to clean it up as best as possible. We also don't want any of the residue, because remember, this is going to melt any plastic it comes in contact with. You're going to get a little where it doesn't belong. That's kind of unavoidable, unfortunately. We'll hold this for a few minutes until we're sure it's dry. Then we're going to proceed along with the fin instruction. So I'm going to pause here, wait for it to dry, and I'll pick it up with fin instruction momentarily. Okay, things have dried. The last step we're going to do with this engine component is we're going to put the fins in it. Notice how the fins have a wide section and a thin section. The wide section we're going to line up, and then we're going to slide it all the way up. It's going to go farther than that. All the way up like that. Now, we need to glue it in place, of course. So, we need to do this 4 times. We're going to put a little bit of glue on the root of the fin that's going to go inside the plastic, because that's what's going to touch the plastic. That's where the contact's going to be. So let's put a little bit in here, not a whole lot, because I don't need this squirting out. Truthfully, we'd probably be okay just with a friction fit here, but we want to be sure. So in it goes, and push all the way. We do not want it hanging into the threads, or we won't be able to screw the engine retainer fully on. This looks pretty good. Push as hard as we can. Make sure it goes all the way up. Okay. We're going to repeat that 4 times, which you don't need to watch me do, so I'll be back momentarily. Okay, we're back. I've finished the complete assembly here. Looks good. This is our engine retainer. It's supposed to screw on here. Now, we are not going to glue this in place, because if we do, we'll never be able to get the motor in, but we should test fit it. Seems pretty good. We're going to take that off. Now, the next step in the instructions is we are going to add this to, not that tube, this tube, the one that we put the the launch lug bit on. Now, we need to be careful. The launch lug part needs to go in between the fins, right? Because the rod needs to go the whole way down through here. So we're going to do our best to align it so that it is going in between the fins. And we want the measurement side, the 3.5 inches, this side toward the fin case. So take that off. Looks pretty good. We are going to put some of our glue on the inside of the tube here. And we can use the adapter tip to spread it out a bit. There we go. Put it in. It shouldn't be too snug a fit, so I'm going to spin it around a couple times to get the glue distributed, and then make sure that I've got it lined up reasonably well here. And that looks pretty good. All right, that's about as far as we're going to get with video number 1. Video number 2, we'll be building the payload, attaching things, and the rest of the build. See you then.